Hey, what's going on? My name is Bim, and this is the Thunderobot G25 for Android and PC. Now, I got to review the Thunderobot G50 a number of years ago, and I liked that. It was very versatile. I like this for completely different reasons, but I should mention that Thunderobot got in touch with me about 3 weeks ago and they sent this over to me for free. But you know, that said, I'll still be completely honest with this review. And with that, let's get on with it. Let's go ahead and take it out of the box. So actually the packaging is really nice. All black. You've got Thunderobot out here. Thunderobot Revolution. It says G2, but there's actually the G25. In fact, it says so here on the back of the specs. It says G25. I don't know if I put this back in wrong, but it seems to fit better if it's facing into the container. Comes with this cable, nice long USB-C for charging. Comes with a dongle, and of course you've got the controller itself. All right, let's take a physical tour of the controller. It actually comes with a manual. The problem with the manual is it's all in Chinese, 100%. So I actually, when I was trying to figure some stuff out, I actually had to email Thunderobot to tell me how to do certain things, and then they sent me the English manual. So I guess I could tell you about that if you just watched the video. Anyway, physical tour. So it's shaped like the Xbox controller. It's a lot lighter, but the shape is very similar, but it's got less of an aggressive edge. I would say it's a little bit more rounded around the handles, which I kind of like. I actually prefer. And it's got these lines. I don't know if you could see it. The camera doesn't really show it that well, but it's got these lines that make it look, you know, futuristic, sort of, almost. I don't think it does anything for the grip, but it looks cool. Face buttons, the configuration is actually like the Xbox One, or you know, Xbox configuration, ABXY, although it does work on the Nintendo Switch. This thing works completely 100% on the Nintendo Switch. It's not marketed towards the Nintendo Switch, so if it were marketed for the Nintendo Switch, it would be BAYX. Sticks are actually textured. The texture is also pretty reminiscent, a little less fine, but pretty reminiscent of the Xbox Series controller. The back is actually also very textured, again, very reminiscent of the Xbox Series 1 controller. Anyway, this thing has USB-C, which is fantastic. All right, let's talk about button quality and the button features. The button feel itself actually does, again, remind me a lot of the Xbox Series controller versus, you know, what a DualShock 4 controller, in the sense that it is a little bit more rounded and a little more raised than you would find on a regular like DualShock controller, where it's a little more flat. They actually took a lot of cues from the Xbox Series controller. The low resistance sticks are sort of similar to the Xbox Series controller, although there's a little bit more resistance on the Xbox Series controller than these things glide, man. These things, they're buttery smooth. Super smooth. The D-pad quality. So here's the thing, right? So I don't like playing fighting games on stick configurations like this, the asymmetrical stick configurations like this, because I don't like playing fighting games on the stick, although apparently there are people who do that. I'm not one of them, so I like playing with the D-pad, but it's awkward, right? Because your fingers are here when you're playing, especially with something that requires a lot of finesse and accuracy as a fighting game. So I wouldn't recommend it for fighting games. That said, it is possible to use, totally, 100%. But as you can see, each button, each direction is actually pretty wide. So if you can compare it to a DualShock 4, each direction is significantly wider, I think, even compared to a Xbox Series controller. Each direction button is very wide. So what does that do? What happens is DP motions, things like that, there's a lot of surface area to cover for the down forward, the flick for the down forward. So like electrics are very hard to do on this thing. Possible, not impossible. It's very hard, but it is still possible. Another thing that kind of bothered me with the D-pad, for fighting games at least, is how they are raised upward this way. outward, right? So when I was going for giant swings, just because of the way my fingers are positioned, it would actually catch on the down arrow. It would catch a lot, actually, just because of, you know, if you're doing a lot of motion on this thing. It's not, again, it's not impossible. It will take some getting used to, but I wouldn't normally recommend a controller with this kind of configuration for fighting games. For everything else, it's fantastic. In fact, I think this controller is amazing for shooters. The bumpers, they're very, very nice. They aren't as clicky as, because the Xbox Series bumpers are very clicky. They're not as clicky, which I kind of prefer, really. And these things, so these triggers are not analog, in the sense that if you press it, there is no travel distance. It's 0 to 1. Well, it's a little bit of travel, but it actuates instantly, versus something that goes from 0 to 100 like a gas pedal. This is just goes 0 1 0 1, like you know, binary. And another thing that this controller is really amazing with is accuracy. So direct your attention to the two circles underneath. So axis 0, axis 1, axis 2, and axis 3. These guys, the closer these are to true 0, the more centered the controller is. The lightness of the stick may take some getting used to, because you might overshoot a lot of your targets if you flick too aggressively, but still it's very accurate. Stays in neutral, dead, almost dead center, which is fantastic. All right, let's talk about the features, because this thing comes with a few bells and whistles, and there's quite a few useful ones in there. So one would be the connectivity mode. So it gets connected to your device 3 ways. One would be through USB-C wired, which is the most direct way, is the easiest way to do it. Another would be the dongle. And this thing, if you've seen any of my other videos, you know I hate these things because you can lose them. This one's a little bigger and it's nice and white. And the third way, which is what I prefer, is Bluetooth. Okay, this thing has 2 input protocols. X input, which is what PCs use, and D input, which is what works on Android and apparently Nintendo Switch as well. So to do that, to connect it to Android, you press the home button, the Thunderobot logo, and A. That's your D input, also for Nintendo Switch. If you want to connect it to PC, you press the robot and X. And then to turn it on, you have to press, you turn it on and just press the Thunderobot logo. But if you want to connect it to X input, you press the home button and X at the same time, and you'll see that it starts flickering fast. That's when it's looking for a connection. Okay, so what are the other features? You can actually swap the functionality of the D-pad, the analog stick with the D-pad and vice versa. To do that, you press the function key in the center and up, and you'll see that this becomes purple. Now what that does is, if it's purple, that means if you rotate your stick, you're actually getting D input commands, and you get D input commands, you get stick commands on your D-pad. You can also set turbo for the buttons, and you do so very fast. So you press the function button, and any button you want to set to any face button, and I think also, and any shoulder button as well to turbo. So you press the center button, the function button, and any what you want to set to turbo once, and you set it to turbo. And then if you do it again, you actually set it to automatically keep pulsing. And then to turn it off, function and the same button again, and it's off. You can also change the strength of the vibration. Now, a lot of third-party controllers do that. You do it by pressing the center function button and flicking up or down on the stick. So with all that said, do I recommend this controller? So if I would recommend this controller, I would definitely recommend it for shooting game fans. This is great for third-person shooters, first-person shooters, for adventure games, so action-adventure games. It's good for that, especially with the lack of travel distance for the triggers. Maybe not so much for driving sims, maybe not so much for games that require you to finesse your triggers, because again, it is not an analog trigger. I wouldn't recommend it for fighting games either, just because of the size of the D-pad and how awkward it is to use for fighting games. Most controllers situated like this aren't really great for fighting games, unless you're a stick player, in which case you're weird. Yeah, so if that's your jam, if any, you're a shooter fan, it's great for that, especially for the price point of around 1,800 pesos, or about $31, $32. On Lazada. Lazada actually has the official store of Thunderobot. The link is in the description if you want to get your own. I looked for it on Shopee, and it was very expensive on Shopee. It goes for like 2,200, 2,300 pesos and up, so about $40. So get it from Lazada, get it from the official store. That way you get like warranties and stuff. So yeah, shooting and adventure stuff. Great. I hope you found this informative at the very least. I hope if you've got comments and questions, ask them in the comments below, and I will guys catch you. I'll catch you guys in the next one.